As Donald Trump's plane lifts off from Washington and Keir Starmer's from RAF Northolt, the world holds its breath. For the first time in 2 years, the guns on Gaza have fallen silent and Trump has declared the war over. And even those who doubted his capacity for diplomacy must now admit that at least for the moment, the peace has been broken through the dust. The symbolism is immense. Trump, architect of the ceasefire, flies first to Israel to meet the families of those still traumatised by the October the 11th atrocities, before heading to Egypt to co-chair the summit with President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, and around 20 world leaders are converging on the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh to sign what Trump calls the deal of the century. It is by any measure the boldest diplomatic gamble since Camp David. In Gaza, the Red Cross prepares to oversee the exchange, 20 living hostages to be freed by Hamas in return for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. But behind these numbers are human lives, terrified, broken, still alive. As dawn breaks on Monday, the world will watch convoys move through Rafah and Karem Shalom, carrying both captives and coffins, and Benjamin Netanyahu, bruised and politically cornered, has called it an historic event. Yet, it is not the end of the war he promised to finish. His hardline coalition partners still demand Hamas's annihilation, while the Israeli Defense Forces continue to prepare for the destruction of the remaining tunnel networks beneath Gaza. Hamas, meanwhile, has already re-emerged, setting up checkpoints and re-establishing control in areas vacated by Israeli troops. A fragile peace rests on treacherous foundations. We saw what happened with the Taliban in Afghanistan following the planned withdrawal by Trump, conducted, of course, by his successor, Biden. At the heart of Trump's plan lies a paradox. The first phase, hostages for prisoners, guns silent for now, is working. But the second, the disarmament of Hamas and the establishment of an international stabilization force, could fracture the moment it begins. It asks the impossible: for Hamas to surrender its weapons voluntarily, for Israel to trust an international mission to secure its borders. Yet diplomacy often depends on precisely such impossibilities being willed into reality. Trump's Board of Peace, which he will chair personally, has been designed to manage Gaza's reconstruction. Among its members will be Sir Tony Blair, a figure whose reappearance in Middle Eastern diplomacy has raised both eyebrows and hope. Trump's allies, Jared Kushner and the envoy Steve Witkoff, now stand beside him once more, speaking with the swagger of men who believe that they've accomplished the unachievable. And into this theatre walks Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, flying in with his National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell, who will deliver a speech in praise of Trump's leadership. Starmer will call this an historic turning point and promise £20 million in humanitarian aid for Gaza's reconstruction. His words will be carefully chosen, the tone deferential, the substance pragmatic. After all, he has little choice. Britain recognised Palestine a month before the ceasefire, a move that angered both Washington and Jerusalem, and now Starmer must appear loyal to Trump while defending a distinctly British moral posture, one that recognises Palestinian nationhood, yet depends on American power to make it viable. Starmer's aides have been whispering comparisons with the Northern Ireland peace process, suggesting that Hamas's decommissioning could follow a similar model. But the analogy falters. Hamas is not the IRA, Gaza is not Belfast, and Trump is no George Mitchell. Still, Starmer will draw on the symbolism, reconciliation through gradual demilitarization, and peace guaranteed by international oversight. The choreography of the summit will be immaculate. The flags already line the approach roads to the resort. The banners read "A New Dawn for Peace." Macron, Merz, Erdogan and others will attend as witnesses, though neither Hamas nor Israel will sign the document themselves. For Trump, it's the perfect stage, a tableau of global acclaim, a Nobel moment in all but name, and indeed, many are already saying what the Norwegian committee dare not, that Trump, not Maria Corina Machado or anyone else, has pulled off the diplomatic coup of the century. Yet beneath the triumphalism lies unease. Hamas has not agreed to disarm. Netanyahu's coalition threatens to collapse. The Gaza Riviera project that Trump so loves to describe, a Dubai by the sea, a vision of hotels and golf courses, sounds more like an estate agent's. What do Americans call them? I forget the word. It's on the tip of my tongue. This fantasy It's Rialto's fantasy, more than rather than a geopolitical blueprint. And the humanitarian crisis remains staggering: 67,000 Palestinians dead, most of Gaza's population displaced, and the rubble of a territory that will take decades to rebuild. For Britain, this summit is about relevance. The Prime Minister wants to show that the UK can still help shape the post-war order, that it can fund, convene, advise. And Jonathan Powell, who helped design the Good Friday Agreement, is back in contact with Trump's team, coordinating the next steps. A London conference on Gaza's reconstruction will follow this week, with European and Arab partners attending. But the reality is that Starmer's role in Sharm el-Sheikh will be ceremonial. He is the guest at Trump's table, not the architect of the peace. The Americans, no matter what may have been done behind the scenes, the Americans, the Egyptians and the Qataris made the deal. The Europeans are there to applaud it. Still, there is value in presence. To be at the table, even symbolically, is to remain within the conversation that defines the post-war Middle East. In Tel Aviv, crowds chant, "Thank you, Trump." In Gaza, families step over shattered masonry, trying to find where their homes once stood. Between these two realities lies the summit, a place of diplomacy, spectacle and perhaps illusion. Trump's peace, for all its grandeur, may last only as long as the signatures are wet, but if it holds for even a week, it will have saved lives. If it holds for a year, it will have changed the world. And it sets a template for what might and could happen in Ukraine and, frankly, in Russia. And as the two planes descend towards Sharm el-Sheikh, Trump's gold-trimmed jet and Starmer's RAF Voyager gleaming in the Egyptian dawn, one truth remains: history is rarely made by those who deserve it most, but by those who have the audacity to claim it.